All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Wheelhouse. I'm sitting here with Ryan from SlayDay. Today we're going to be covering everything that SlayDay has to offer, as well as some of the aspects to a rental boat business that a lot of people may not understand or may not be aware of.
Yeah, may not even know about.
Yeah. So Ryan, talk about SlayDay and what it is that you guys offer.
So SlayDay SoCal is our complete name. We for about 6 years now, we've specialized in providing offshore-worthy center consoles. And we had this idea back in end of 2015, 2016 to kind of when we saw like the Lyft and the Uber revolution really come to its peak, just with friends just kind of joking around like, well, what if there was like an Uber of the sea? What if you could like take a boat and go do what you want? And then it kind of morphed into like, well, what if you could, what about rent a boat? And like right when Freedom Boat Club kind of started their thing, we realized we didn't want to be a boat club, we wanted to rent boats. And so we started really focusing on like aluminum skiff center consoles that are like little battle axes that you can take 40, 50 miles offshore, and you can do it with your friends and family and not have to worry about a captain or a legal charter or something like that. So it's the accessibility to the majority of our fishing bite in your own boat.
How many boats do you guys have now?
So right now with rental boats, we have the three. We're down in Mission Bay, San Diego now with our partner down there, Ramon, and then we have our boats up here. And then we're also tiptoeing into the six-pack business too. So we actually have a fourth boat now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then how are these boats outfitted? You guys offer a very unique service.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it, obviously. But talk about just everything that comes with renting a SlayDay boat.
So one of the things that we started off when we designed these boats with Ken from Trade Winds Inflatables over in Orange County is we wanted there to be ample deck space. Because here in Southern California, we're not gaffing everything. We're flipping a lot of fish on. We're flipping the yellowtail on. When it comes time to gaff a big fish, you need a place to plop it on. And so really our boats are simplified. So every boat's built the same. It has a T-top center console combo and then some type of lean seat bait tank combo so that it's just all deck space. And so when you rent with SlayDay, you get a boat that's got top of the line bait tank, whether it's 45 to 60 gallon made by West Coast Bait Tanks. And then we have these custom aluminum consoles that were brought down from Klamath, the same area where the Bay Runners are made. And we teamed up with Striker T-tops. And then all of our boats include roto hard coolers full of ice, your hand windlass with an anchor, all your emergency equipment, your bait well, gaffs, deck brushes, like everything that you'd want on your own boat. But our bread and butter is that our Garmin and our Simrad systems are full of all the fishing spots. So if you're staying local and you're just fishing, local reefs and less than 100 feet, you have a couple hundred spots to choose from. Yeah. But if you want to go to like Catalina, or if you want to fish like 14 Mile Bank or the banks, those are on there also.
So one thing to consider is for guys who have never owned a boat, who fish charter boats, when you buy your first boat, it's never good to go. Like you take it out and then you start realizing, oh, I need to do this to that, or I need to do that, or my bait tank the pump is too strong, or it's not strong enough. With your rental boats, everything is dialed in for them, right? Everything.
Completely.
You jump on the boat, the bait tank is huge. You can put 1 to 2 scoops of bait in there. Yeah. The ice chest, like you said, is full of ice. You got spots, which is probably the number one thing when it comes to fishing, is having the right spots, knowing where to go. They're all preloaded onto the boat. So you just hop on, and as long as you have experience driving a boat, you can just hop on and then go out. That's
right? Exactly it. Yeah, we unfortunately we turn down a lot of business because we don't rent to anyone. Right. Like the line that we use is when someone wants to rent from SlayDay, we say, do you have any experience on a boat? Did you grow up on a boat? Do you have a buddy that you go out with a lot? Like, what? And if they say no, then we always suggest like, well, invite one of your friends that maybe has a boat, or invite a friend that's been on the ocean their life, or maybe you want to go with a private charter instead, because for us, we like to boast that we've done 700 or 800 rentals in the past 5 years, and we've never had a claim, not one single claim, and it's because we're not just renting to anybody.
Right, exactly. And then as far as if someone, because I imagine now, we just got through this COVID epidemic and everything that went on, and that kind of opened people's eyes to where, you know, maybe I don't want to spend $100 or $200 or $300 for me and my son to go out on a 6-pack. Maybe I'd rather take that money and hit up SlayDay and have a day out on the water.
Yeah, and it's a truly private experience. Yeah. I mean, whether you have just you and a buddy, or you and the wife and the kids, or a group of 5 guys, like, you're the only ones on the boat.
Right.
You know, and you know, like, I no disrespect to all the hardworking individuals that run, you know, charter boats at all, but you know, it's a different vibe when you have, you know, 50, 60 anglers and everyone's a foot away, or if you have 4 or 5 anglers, you know, and you know, it's nice to be able to choose, like, okay, we're done rock fishing now, let's go do calico, or like, oh, let's go have lunch at a restaurant, let's go park over by, you go
Ballast Point.
Yeah, Ballast Point. You know, you want to go dock and have some lunch or something, or if you just want to float and drift and take a nap, you can do all those things because you're by yourself. And you know, for those clients that we had that tried us out during the pandemic because they didn't want to go on the party boats or the sport boats, they kind of fell in love with the model because they're with their own people.
Right.
You know, you don't have to wear your mask. You don't have to, you know, be super cautious. All of our boats are super clean and sanitized, and you know, it's a unique experience that we really gained a lot of new family and a lot of new customers during the pandemic.
And then, so is there anything that someone can do, like for example, a guy with his son, they don't have any boating experience, but they want to go out with you. Is there any way that they can go from no boating experience, chartering you guys, getting one of your private captains for a couple trips, and then eventually they wean off the private captain and then they can rent your boat on their own?
That flow that you just went through has happened with a couple of our clients where maybe, you know, our first couple of years, we also carried liability insurance for bareboat charters where anyone could hire a captain to join them. So we had a couple of families where they'd go out like once or twice with a captain, you know, they'd pay an extra $300 or $400, and then that 3rd or 4th time, they kind of naturally transition to like, I can do this.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned going out with your son, like if you do want to go out with a couple, you know, little kids, like we have spots along the break wall or near like the bait barges or just outside where they can get on anchor. And we provide rental gear, and we use, you know, the Ahi USA, the sabiki setups. And so like putting your 5-year-old son and having him catch 100 mackerel
that's what it's all about.
Is a life-changing experience. And so like, if you want to do a half-day trip with us and, you know, spend a decent amount of money but affordable, you can go and catch fish with your kids. But if you want to grab 2 or 3 of your boys and run out to like Farnsworth Bank and go chase yellowtail, you can do the same exact thing on the same platform.
And that's actually part of the next question that I was going to go into. These boats that you have, they're obviously set up. They can, like you just mentioned, they can go offshore or they can go inside the harbor. Yeah. What do you recommend for someone who has never operated or who has never been on their own boat and they're running their boat now?
Yeah.
Do you recommend that they go to Catalina for the first time, or do you recommend that they kind of get used to the boat, the layout, figure out how everything works before they take that long leap across the channel? So
there's like a cookie cutter answer to that, because that's a lot of our customers is like they know they want to rent a boat and they know how to fish, but maybe they're a little weary of traveling 30 miles offshore. So a lot of our local reefs, Santa Monica Bay, some of the Marina del Rey local reefs, some of the reefs off of like, you know, Isers, like this, you know, and then you go down the Newport reefs and the Huntington artificial reefs, like they're all within 4 to 7 miles of the breakwall. Yeah. So you're there within 20 minutes. They're usually less than 100 feet. All of our boats have anchors to where they can anchor on the spots. So anchoring on an artificial reef is usually like our answer for those, because you can anchor on an artificial reef and pretty much guarantee you're going to get some bass, you know, maybe some shallow rockfish.
No, the fishing at some of the local reefs is amazing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you can get some toad freaking
yellowtail once in a while, big halibut,
a white sea bass every once in a while.
Yes.
I mean, there's quality fishing. Yeah. And like you mentioned, I mean, it's progressing. So, you know, it's your first time. Lots of guys, I did it. You know, when I got my first boat, I went to Catalina for the first time. I'm like, all right, we made it to Catalina. Now what
do I do?
Yeah, what do I do? I'm here. This is where we're supposed to catch all the fish. And then, you know, it takes a few times.
It does.
To kind of get in tune with the island, get in tune with the area that you're fishing.
How to read the current.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
and so like, I think you may have touched on it before, but like, you know, there's outstanding fishing within the federal breakwall.
Yeah.
You know, whether from Cabrillo all the way down to Los Alamitos, you know, you got like, I want to say 8 linear miles of breakwall, and all within that bay, you know, you have all 3 species of bass, You have halibut. You have
Halibut
the occasional
fishing is
yellowtail. You have, sheephead, barracuda. And I think that when you're close to land and you see the break wall and you see the bait barge and you see all the boats, there's a sense of ease that comes to you as a new boater. You realize you're pretty close. We have U.S. boat tow.
Exactly.
And so that first experience, a lot of our clients do spend the day breakwall fishing, or local fishing.
Right. I mean, yeah, in case something goes wrong, you have cell phone service, So getting into the fishing side of it now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is really cool that you guys offer is someone during lobster season can rent your boat and you have all the Promar gear for them. You have the bait for them. They literally just hop on the boat, potentially catch a limited lobster, take their limited lobster and go home, and then that's it.
And there's more than just that, Steve. So obviously, providing that experience to go out and catch California spiny lobster is awesome. And when you take one of our rental boats out, we have twilight trips and we have overnight trips. Not only are you given all your hoop nets, but you're given your Promarahi USC LED float lights, the line, measuring gauges, all of your fresh bait, all kinds of spots preloaded in the chart plotters. But a lot of people give us feedback that they're stoked when they go out with their kids and they pull up their pots and there's eels and octopus and sculpin and sharks and that experience of just bringing life up from the bottom. Sometimes they don't even mention lobster because they had such a cool experience of all the other species that are out there.
Well, I'm really good friends with Phil Friedman, and that's one thing that he preaches is when you take your kids out, it's not about catching fish. It's making sure that they have a good time.
An experience.
Yeah, yes. Whether or not they catch fish, that's not what they're going to remember. They're going to remember their dad or their mom waking them up in the morning, getting on that boat.
Getting a donut.
Getting a breakfast burrito, seeing the sea lions on the floating buoy, heading out the LA lighthouse, and then catching that, whether they catch a first fish or not, but just seeing all the life that, pelicans flying, seagulls landing on the bait well and stealing bait, all these things, it's memories, and that's what's going to make them want to continue and do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
One of our mantras that we started in the beginning was kind of we haven't trademarked or anything, but it's the whole slay together wording. And when you're together with like-minded people, so obviously your family is going to be like-minded, but like-minded people, when you're together, you're spot on. It's not about the fishing. That's a plus. That's an add-in. Being out in fresh air and experiencing California to where the majority of our populace doesn't get to experience that. Fishing is an expensive sport, but you can rent one of our boats, and if you take a small crew, it's under $200 a guy.
Exactly.
And you can experience all that. And when we have clients come back in and there's no fish in the kill bag, but they're still smiling because of what you just said. They got to feed a sea lion. They saw this giant floating, ship that just came in from the Panama Canal or from Beijing, and they got to go sit next, just those experiences alone far supersede fishing.
Yeah.
And to be honest, our industry, our hobby is under attack from these lobbyists, and we're seeing a slow pick away of our fishing grounds. And obviously you're aware they just closed the majority of our rock fishing season, and we might see shark fishing go away soon. And if we don't prepare and energize and grab this next group of outdoorsmen and outdoorswomen, we could lose it. And so for me, introducing fishing and being offshore to young children and to the youth is not only a moneymaker, but it's critical to our hobby.
Yeah.
Critical.
And there's a huge benefit to exposing children to, being outdoors and using their body and being physical and doing stuff like that. Because, think about everything that, just all the bad things that happen to just staying in a room, staying at home, playing
staring
video
at a screen.
games. Yeah, exactly. So I totally agree with you. I think that, exposing your kid, exposing your friends, exposing more people to the outdoors, whether it's fishing, hiking, just being outdoors.
Fresh air.
Is good for the psyche.
Yeah.
It's definitely good for the psyche. It's good for development skills, stuff like that. So I totally agree with you. Back to fishing.
Sure.
So covered lobster fishing on the boats. Talk about some of the offshore fishing that you can do, or some of the stories that you've you've encountered. We just got done having probably the most epic mahi fishing locally ever, along with bluefin the last few years. I mean, it's just been phenomenal fishing. The yellowtail at the islands, the white sea bass bites coming up and down every once in a while. And having a service like this, talk about, the guys that rented the boat for the first time, never had their own boat, and then they were like, we stumbled on a bite and it was just crazy.
So I think the coolest experience is when everything comes together. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that we do for our renters is leading up to the day of the rental, we communicate and we share knowledge. We talk about, how the current may be acting that day, what the swell is going to be like, what's been biting, what's not been biting, what bait is available. So when our renters head out that morning, they feel like they kind of have a plan, and the best stories, and one of them was recently with, the whole Dorado, is we had a father and son who went out and they knew how to fish. They've been on sport boats, they've been on like private charters before, but they've been debating getting a boat. And so they said, well, we're going to go out. They went out of San Diego the first time. They said, well, what should we do? And we said, well, look, these high point areas, we talked about like the 181, the 182, the corner, the 9 Mile bank, like, they're holding these huge temp breaks, and there's Dorado all over the place. And so we taught them, like, here's what to look for, here's what to do, this son and the father went out, just the two of them, and they caught like 15 Dorado, yellowtail, yellowfin, like almost a California slam bag. They just missed the bluefin, and they came back within 10 hours, and they were almost in tears. Like, they were so ecstatic and so happy that they were just like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, we never want to buy our own boat. Like, but just watching someone follow the plan and then execute it and then come back with that kill bag, like, it's emotional, because that feeling as an angler.
Yeah.
And to do it with your dad. And, since then, that father and son, they've went out 3 times with us, and every time they've caught fish.
It's different. I feel like or I personally, I don't know how you feel about it, but I take it for granted sometimes, because we've been fishing our entire lives, and we have a network of buddies who fish. So getting that information is not so difficult for us. When the fish are biting, where they're biting, what is being used to catch them. Yeah. Whereas someone who, a father and son who's really looking just for something that they can bond, do together and share as a bonding moment, they're not in tune with Fish Dope and all these other apps and what's going on. So you providing all that essential information for them to have a successful day on the water and make a memory that father and son are going to share forever. Providing that, I think that's huge. Yeah. And us, we may take it for granted, but someone who doesn't get that often, or if they bought their own boat, they'd have memories, but you're giving them all the right tools. The tools, for them to have a really successful day on the water.
Yeah. A lot of our renters, a lot of them actually, usually end up getting a boat after using our service. Like, we see it all the time, and they keep in contact with us because they become clients and they become friends. And we always recommend get Fish Dope, get 976 tuna, get on Bloody Decks. Embed yourself into the community, because a lot of times, if you don't have any friends in the industry, if you don't have, captain buddies or whatever, if you just ask, there are people that are willing to share information if you're genuine.
Yeah.
And so with Navionics and Fish Dope and 976 and Bloody Decks, you can kind of create that own plan yourself, and it's pretty affordable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about you specifically now. I know that you fish a lot. You do both freshwater and saltwater fishing. Yeah. What are some things that you've learned over the years fishing on your boats that you want the potential customer who wants to rent your boat? What are some things that he or she should know before, or for preparing to go out on your boat?
So probably the number one thing, and this is a Dave Hansen, slogan, but it's don't fish for sport boats. Like, don't follow the boats. Make your own day, make your own trek, make your own plan. Like, a lot of times, like, some of our local freshwater lakes, like Paris, if you go out for Paris on a little bass boat, the main points and the main structure, there's going to be a bunch of boats all parked on there, but then there's also like 50 other structure points that no one's hitting. And so the first thing we always preach is despite what we tell you to do, if you're going to go out and you're going to automatically go to the sport boats where they're all sitting. You're going to go to these guys on anchor, and it's almost pointless.
Yeah.
If anything, you're decreasing your chances of hooking up. So that's the number one thing, is find your own fish. And for us, for offshore, for saltwater, we preach constantly current. Like, if you don't have any current where you're fishing, like we kind of tell our clients how to use like sabiki rigs and how to use swim baits to kind of tell the current by looking down over them. If you don't have any current, don't fish there, because fish just want to eat, and they want to eat forage. They want to eat sardines and mackerel and anchovies, and those mackerel and anchovies and sardines are going to travel with the current. And the more current you have, the more bait fish you're going to have come through, the more game fish. And so for us, it's current. And in my eyes, like the days when you have stagnant fish days or where the water's green and you're not hooking up, it's because there's a lack of current. And so that's probably the number two thing we preach is, don't follow boats, follow current. And the third thing is the power of live bait. So, we live in an area where, jigs and swim baits and all that, they work great. But in reality, what do these game fish want to eat? They want to eat what they always eat, and that's the local forage. So, red crab, sardines, anchovies, mackerel, squid, like that's our local forage. And so by providing boats with like nicer bait tanks, we really preach like the correct hook size to bring, the correct fluorocarbon to bring, because if you have the right forage, you're probably going to catch some fish.
Right.
But then again, you got guys that, they show up and, they're swim bait whores or whatever you want to call them. And then we caught a couple bass, but like live bait is critical, man. Like a lot of people don't realize, like if you want to go out and fish with people that don't fish a lot, live bait is critical.
I agree. I mean, I think the guys that fish swim baits, personally, I love fishing swim baits. So do I,
dude.
But it's kind of a different thing. So we've caught we know live bait works. I think, me personally, I'm at a position to where I want to give myself a challenge. Yeah, exactly. So, we know we can catch them with live bait, and we have fun doing it. But now let's try making it a little bit more difficult. We're fishing this area that people don't typically get bites at. But you know what? I'm gonna try my butt off, and I want to get a bite there.
I'm gonna get that 7-pound calico.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm with you. I mean, I understand that live bait is the way to go.
Yeah, especially for people that don't fish a lot.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not fishing as much as some of the other guys out there, as much as you are, live bait is definitely the way to go. If you just want to catch fish, if you want your son to catch fish, if you want your buddy to catch fish, live bait's the way to go. So we talked about what your boats are rigged for. They can pretty much do anything offshore within. What's the range on the little boats there? So
35 linear miles from the break wall.
Okay.
So to put that in perspective, like the backside of Catalina from like, let's just say the Long Beach break wall is like, I think 26 miles, 27 miles. So really, you got Santa Monica Bay, Farnsworth Bank, like the front of the Clemente Ridge, like the 14-mile, like that whole spread. And then as you head further down the coast, you're 267, 276, 209, 289, kind of like all those banks within 30 miles. And then down in San Diego, like just almost getting to the corner, kind of that area, the 181, 182, front side of the ridge. Like really just imagine like 35 linear miles all the way down the coast. And total range on our boats, about 100 to 120 miles.
And you guys provide, if need be, you guys provide rods, reels, all that stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so we always provide all of your fuel. Like you never have to think about fuel. We're not like a boat club where you have to refuel. Our prices include your fuel, include your ice also. But then we also, we've worked well with Shimano for the past 5 years. We have bait runners, we have Toriums, we have Speedmasters, and they're all available for rent.
Awesome. And so we're going into winter now. Mm-hmm. If somebody calls you and says, hey, Ryan, I want to rent one of your boats, what should I be prepared for? What are you typically telling your customers throughout the year?
So right now, like that conversation just kind of started, obviously, because right now we're about to enter the dead season. But if you don't want to go lobster fishing, then we recommend, and we really try to push local rock fishing.
Okay.
Because local rock fishing, it's kind of arduous to kind of crank up 300 feet, but if you're on the spots and you're drifting, you're probably going to hook up. So rock fishing, and then also I'm going to go back to anchoring on artificial reefs, because the sand bass, the calico bass, the sheephead, like they're always there. And so like cooler months, less popular, again, Iser, Santa Ana Reef, like a lot of the artificial reefs like produce when the kelp lines aren't, or they produce when the island isn't, or on days that are really, really windy, you can anchor off of artificial reef and still catch 90 feet down.
You hinted at something in regards to a 6-pack.
Right.
Can you get into that a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah. We've had a vision probably for the past 2 years of entering the private 6-pack market.
Okay.
And we've had a lot of success renting out boats, and for a couple of years we registered some of our boats commercial, passenger endorsement, Coast Guard inspection. We did charters, but it's difficult to offer a 3-pack or a 4-pack charter. Most people want to go out with a little bit bigger group, and so we made the decision here a couple months ago to invest in a larger boat. We have a 31-foot Perry Sport Craft that we just purchased, that we just brought in from Florida, that's ready to take like SoCal by storm. SlayDay teamed up with Like Mind Fishing, and our friend Mark over at Like Mind. We've worked together on completely perfecting this platform that we have. So we have a boat that's got about 300 miles of range with a 15-foot tuna tower, full Garmin electronics, and this boat, the captains that we're working with are captains that have been hand selected. Young men and young women who know what they're doing, but they're not necessarily the face of the industry yet. And so we've hired a couple of these OUPV captains to work with us, and this boat is going to be the boat that you want to be on. We've got 120 gallons of live well. We've got we're on the waiting list to outfit this boat with Starlink so that you have Wi-Fi access wherever you are offshore. If you need to get some work done while you're fishing Clemente for yellowtail, you need to hop on your iPad and send some files. You have internet access. These boats have sleeping quarters with a full bathroom. Like we want to provide an experience where you can go out and just slaughter fish and get it bloody with your boys. But if you want to take out your wife and kids and put them on fish and get some work done in the cabin, you can do that also.
Wow, very unique.
And so we're looking at introducing this boat to the San Diego market this fall. We're right smack in the middle of running some like local team trips with some of our Instagram and Facebook family, and we're fine tuning everything, and we're ready to introduce this boat to the market pretty soon.
So are you guys going to be focused on a certain type of fishery, or is it just going to be whatever's biting?
So we decided as a team that like our two major focuses, it's kind of cliche-ish, but the offshore bluefin.
Okay.
The team that we've assembled to run this boat and to deck on this boat are guys that have been fishing bluefin for years. Right now we have an insane amount of respect for some of the local caps, and for example like Pinnacle and Bite and some of the bigger San Diego operations that are running, but with this boat having 300 miles of range is the ability to take clients down into Mexico for yellowfin and bluefin, or run out to Clemente or run out to Tanner and really tackle some of these. We're probably going to have these bluefin here for at least a few more years until we lose this gift that we've had. But taking parties out to go search for the fish of a lifetime. That's really, one of our boasts or our claim to fame. But the captains that work with us and the hands that work with us also know like the La Jolla yellowtail game really well. The October through January, yo-yo bite it like La Jolla, and the home guards that are always there. So really, I'd have to say bluefin and then local yellowtail. But with our electronics and our knowledge and our time on the water, if that's not your cup of tea and you want to go out and like limit on rockfish, or if you want to fish for trophy calico, those are also absolutely something we'd love to offer. But in reality, we are kind of, go big or go home kind of mentality.
For the most part, we can fish, I don't know, I'd say at least 300 days out of the year, right? Versus some areas, you get 2 good months.
A third of that, yeah.
3 good months. Are you guys doing rentals year round? If somebody calls, is there a close season? Is there a time where you guys are out for maintenance or anything like that?
So we since we've opened, we've always boasted that you can rent a boat 12 months out of the year. Like we're always renting boats.
Okay.
You know, we kind of strategically do our maintenance like midweek, like Monday through Thursdays kind of thing, so that we can take it off the market for a minute. But you know, when fishing dies down and you know December through February, December through March comes, we really like to promote and educate people on lobster hooping, crabbing, you know, local reef fishing was just like the tip of it. Like there's also, you know, if you're, let's just say you're an Orange County guy and you're like, oh, you know, we want to go fishing, but we don't go to Catalina. Like what's out there? Like there's halibut fishing year round here.
Yeah.
Like no one ever talks about it. It's not on YouTube. It's not on Instagram. There is outstanding halibut fishing, but for some reason we fish a bite where we have so many other awesome pelagics that no one focuses on the California halibut. But there are massive halibut to be caught 12 months out of the year. And we have sardines and we have mackerels. So we have everything needed. So, you know, we sometimes we'll push these little halibut trips where we have some really good spots around the PV Peninsula, like right on the Huntington Flats, like over in front of Dana Point, that'll produce year round if you're willing to drift. And so we talk about halibut a lot. We've done some seminars on bounce balling for halibut and, you know, working plastics for halibut. So I'd probably have to say we push halibut. We already talked about rockfish during the winter. But, you know, I don't know if this is the right platform to discuss it, but this vessel that we've invested in, you know, our new 6-pack boat, for when times are slow and maybe you don't want to go fishing, you could also get, you know, dressed up and take your lady out, take some friends out and go for a nice harbor cruise. You know, our boat, you know, it's going to have a captain and it has an excellent sound system, and we have beautiful LED lighting all around the boat, underwater lights, to where you can also go and do a harbor cruise, have a couple drinks, relax, listen to some music, you know. So that's another avenue that SlayDay is kind of opening its doors to, is not having a rod and reel on board, but also being on the ocean and still enjoying, you know, what the bays have to offer.
You know, it's funny because you just talked about halibut fishing and how it's not very popular. I agree with you. That fishery is something to where you can rent a SlayDay boat, you know, for a half day, full day, and get the maximum amount of fishing time, because you really only have to go 10 minutes in the harbor or just outside the harbor, and you're fishing.
Absolutely.
So I think it's interesting that, you know, more people don't do it, maybe they do it, but it's just not something that's common knowledge.
I think that's what it is. I don't think a lot of people know how to correctly fish for bottom flatfish, you know? Like,
so what's your take on that? So how
educating people, like, you know, the really only need 2 tools. You know, you need, in my opinion, you need live bait. You got to have sardines and mackerels. And like for people, you know, sometimes our bait barges do not have live bait. It's not very often, but during the winter, sometimes you'll pull up to San Pedro or Nacho and they have no bait. And so, like, you know, the Ahi USA, the sabiki stick, you know, we have 3 of them that we've purchased over the years, because we want people to go out, and if they just want to go fishing, like, catch some mackerel. Spend the first couple hours catching mackerel. Here's where you can anchor. You know, here's an Ahi USA chum bucket. You know, here's your sabiki. So live bait is critical. And then for me, there's 2 setups that are absolute. One of them, kind of like your classic reverse dropper loop or dropper loop. So you need a torpedo, you need a hook. You're done. Or I'm old school. I love Carolina. I love doing like a 1-ounce slider with like a long leader, just a classic circle hook, you know. And then I'm also a big fan of like white flukes and like crystal or clear flukes. But yeah, I mean, halibut fishing, it's, you know, it's I hate to say it because it's hard, but it's not hard. You know, the process is not hard. Finding them and catching them is not always, but I mean, literally, you know, bump troll, slow troll, drift, you know, you can do it without thinking, and next thing you know, you're halibut fishing, you know?
And those are big fish in a harbor. It's like you think about it, it's you have a good chance of landing, what's illegal, 22 inches?
Yeah.
And that is 4 or 5 pounds at least.
Around there, yeah.
And then I mean, I've seen 35 pounders caught inside the harbor.
Oh yeah.
Mike at the San Pedro Bay barge, he says he's hooked them on the barge, just below the barge.
Fishing during the slow hours, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the biggest halibut we've put on one of our boats was over off Grissom Island, you know, right in one of the oil islands, you know, and it's you know, anytime you have structure that's buttoned up to like a sandy area, they're going to be there. They're going to be there, whether they are a whole bunch of little babies or a big giant doormat, like they're going to be there, dude.
Yeah. So I think we've touched on a lot of the aspects in regards to SlayDay and the benefits to renting a small boat like this, to go offshore, inshore, doing everything, the vast diverse fisheries that we have available to someone who rents a boat like that. Is there anything else that you want to touch on or let some of the viewers, listeners know in regards to SlayDay and kind of the new endeavor that you guys are going on with this 6-pack charter?
So I mean, really, the only thing else I want to say is kind of selfless. Like, yeah, it's awesome if you rent one of our skiffs. It's awesome if you go out with one of our captains and our crew on a private trip. But just get out there, like, period. Just get out there. I mean, Newport Balboa has been renting 10-foot skiffs for 50 years, and just get out there, go catch some spotties, go catch some halibut, go look for that elusive, inshore yellowtail, just get out there, go on a half-day boat, go on a twilight boat. Like, there's boats all up and down our coast. There's captains all up and down our coast. No matter what month out of the year, you're going to find something to catch. Even if you just go whale watching, like, just get out there. For those viewers that are watching your channel, they're already outdoorsmen. But for those that stumble across this, your kids, even though they're addicted to their devices and they're addicted to being indoors and they're addicted to screens, really they don't want to do that. Like, cognitively as human beings, we want to connect with nature. Like, it benefits us on so many different levels with, dopamine and all the different chemicals in our body. Just get out there. And that's one of the reasons why we're excited to work with Promar and Ahi USA, is because it's not just fishing. Like, if you look at the products that they offer, there are so many avenues of being out on the water that don't have to do about line and reel, a hook and line and reel, whatever that term is. Like, just get out there straight up.
I agree with you, man. Yeah. And in regards to someone that's renting your boat, I mean, this is very unique operation, guys. Ryan literally provides every single tool that you're gonna need to have a successful day on the water when you're renting the rigs, the SlayDay SoCal rigs. So make sure you guys check them out. Where can they find you, Ryan?
So just like everyone else, we got the website, SlayDaySoCal.com, but we're also really active on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and all that other stuff. But really, if they really want to find us, come to one of our free seminars. Usually about once a month, we're speaking at a local club. We're involved in some kind of local tackle show. We're doing a seminar through one of the fishing shows, but connect with us in person so we could shake hands and we could maybe give you some product and talk about what you're doing and what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and what we're doing wrong, and share. And like, we're really big on connection. And like, one of our best-selling shirts that we ever put out was a picture of two hands like clasping each other, and it literally just said "Slay together," because it's one thing to like DM each other and to communicate online, but it's tenfold better for us to shake hands and look each other in the eyes and talk about it and establish a relationship, right? Because that is what it's all about. It's just being together, slaying together. So find us on social media, but really come find us in person. So we'll be with Promar Ahi USA and all their distributors and all their tackle shops at PCS and at Fred Hall. But there's all kinds of little local tackle shows all the time, whether it's Dan Hernandez or Tackle Me or Day at the Docks. Like, just get out there, find us in person.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. For more information on SlayDay, you heard it. Visit their website. Check them out on Instagram, social media, Facebook. And thanks again, guys. We'll see you out on the water.